Welcome, everyone. Bienvenidos, ni hao, buna, yo, hola. If you're joining us from wherever that might be, whether it be Ghana, South Africa, Romania, New York, Costa Rica, Mexico, Los Angeles, Panama, Portugal, the Philippines, Singapore, welcome. I am Jose Caballer, designer, creative director, and a brand alchemist. And, I've worked for agencies globally and for global agencies and also boutique firms, had my own, and also some of the biggest brands. And I created the System for Discovery framework to help facilitate, align, and understand our clients better. And really at the end with the goal to help you level up, gain confidence, and earn more, obviously, at the end of the day, and work smarter, make work a lot easier. Our goal at the system, our mission is exactly that, to empower creative leaders to transform global businesses through design. And that will in turn help design a better future. Today's agenda is super simple. We're going to drop in, as we always do, get everybody warmed up for the conversation. Conversation today is core and AI. And then we're going to have regular QA and the upload, music and no cookies. I actually wanted to review the values that we did last week if we have time. If we don't, it'll be okay. As always, Core Office Hours is really a way to promote and to talk about Core Discovery, the 3.0 version, which came out, and I keep on adding to it a bit. Coreismagic.com, and Core Discovery is a framework to help you align brand users and goals. So here we are. Let's do the drop in. If you're not on stage, let me know in the chat. And the way we do it, I am going to model it, and then you're gonna go. And the music is super loud. So I am going to go to my Spotify. The playlist is in the chat if you wanna enjoy it at home when you are doing some work. The drop in today is your name, location, what you do, and what are you grateful for today? So I'm going to go and model it. My name is Jose Caballer. I am currently in South Carolina. And where in the world is Jose this week? That's going to be a running joke, or it is. What do you do? I'm a designer, as I said, creative director and brand alchemist. I'm grateful for family. I'm grateful for the journey. Oof, I am grateful for all of it, the things that make existence worthy, which is like just the ups and the downs and the sideways and like all the things, and getting up and doing it again the next day. So I'm going to choose Ioana. Go next.
Hi, I'm Ioana Balkan. I'm a catastrophical CEO. Yes, there's a cat in catastrophical. And I work at Colcat, an agency based in Romania. And we help forward-thinking people create products and branding that their users love through brand architecture and strategy. And I'm grateful for when people remember me or I remember them, and how sometimes that just creates opportunity. That's what I'm grateful for. And I'm gonna pick Todd because I missed you, man.
Hey, Ivana. It's nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
You have such a lovely smile.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm Todd. I am in Los Angeles, and I am an entrepreneur. I'm a product guy. I'm a filmmaker. And this week I'm grateful for good health, because I was in San Francisco last weekend and got a cold that fortunately turned out not to be COVID, but I ended up being sick for most of the week, and it is now on the way out, and I'm very happy for that. And I pick Alejandro. Did I miss something, Jose?
Nope.
Okay.
Hey guys, so my name is Alejandro. I'm a brand designer, and today I'm in Costa Rica. I'm visiting my family, and well, that is one of the things that I'm grateful for, is just to be able to, travel from Guadalajara here to Costa Rica and being able to kind of exist in two different, very different locations, but at the same time feeling like kind of at home in both places. It's just such a great experience. Yeah, I'm grateful for that. I'm loving the cat. Yeah, I'm not very cat.
What tool are you using for your? Because I used to use Snap, and they whatever they closed that application. What do you use for your filter?
Well, it's just Zoom. Zoom has
Zoom
an
loaded
avatar
in.
section.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Pick someone, Alejandro.
Sorry, Daniel.
My name's Daniel Brewster. I've been working as an Apple consultant, and I'm going to be thankful for artificial intelligence today.
Awesome. Thank you. Pick somebody.
Zach, you're up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Zach Hill, and I'm a design consultant and strategist for a technology company in LA. That's where I live as well. And I'm grateful for young activists in Wisconsin and Tennessee this week. And I will pick Marlene.
I was looking for my cursor. I'm Arlene Hutchins. I'm in Missoula, Montana. I am a strategic brand designer, and I am grateful for my legs. And I would like to pick Brian Jimenez.
Thank you, Marlene. My name is Brian Jimenez. I'm a brand strategist and a creative director. Like many of you, I do other things. I do digital marketing. I produce a podcast, two of them. And I have a small agency called Archimedes Branding in LA. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue to learn and improve, both here in the system community, but also just globally and in general, and also grateful for the opportunity to share insights that to help others improve. And that may or may not include helping AI improve. We'll discuss that in this conversation. I pick, let me see who, Jeremiah.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Jeremiah. I am a designer and a brand strategist based in Phoenix, Arizona. Essentially, I help holistic practitioners, conscious business owners, and other similar-minded people who are seeking to have an impact on the world, on the people and the planet itself. Today, what's resonating with me for as far as gratitude is really this community. This is something that I look forward to. And when I miss it, I feel like there's something that's missing a part of my day. So I'm really grateful for you all, and thanks for hosting this space, Jose.
I always love having you here. I love having every single one of you. You make my Fridays. It fills me back up. Pick someone.
Cool. Let's go with John.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Otero. I am a creative director for a web design and SEO agency based in Richmond, Virginia. And I'm grateful it's Friday. Start with that one there. And that we have the weekend to look forward to. Even if you're still grinding on the weekend, hopefully you get to wake up a little bit later than usual. But that's what I'm grateful for. Let's see, I think everyone was picked. So I'm not sure if there's anybody.
Oh no, I think there's plenty of people. Who hasn't gone?
I'm only
Just,
seeing
say it.
here.
Oh, you mean on stage? Jeremiah went, Brian went. Okay, you're right. Zach went, everybody went. All right. Look at that. So I'm going to put it back on. Oh, look, Zoom is improving their features. Love it. So we're going to go into the course section. Before we do, I'm going to do the sharing rule. So reminding everybody that we don't give each other advice. You should do this. That's the example. But we speak from the I, and we do what's called Gestalt protocol, which is, hey, here's some ways that I've done it. Here's what I've experienced with AI. Here's what I read. Yuana said that she saw a great podcast. And then if you want to express your point of view, again, speaking from the I feel that in that AI is XYZ. Because in this case today, we're actually having like a roundtable conversation. I'm going to model it a little bit, and notice that I always start with a story of something. So really core in AI for me, just so that you know, I'm pretty slow. I go a bit on the slow side on things, but happens to be that I worked on an AI. Some of us here on this call, we worked on an AI startup earlier in the year, and I got to experience the magic in a lot of different proportions, seeing how the tool that was being built worked, but also getting to see the entirety of the landscape, who the players were, use Chat GPT a lot, understand how all the different things that are being integrated can be put together and harnessed, how companies are beginning to integrate into their search engines like Microsoft is doing. Adobe is beginning to play in the space. Everybody's jumping in. It's been the talk of the town, and we're kind of like, I think I don't know if we're at the end of the apex or of the top of the curve, or if we haven't even reached the top of the curve yet. I have no idea. We might be on the way up. Somebody might know better from the pundits. But personally, how in that project I ended up using AI was that after doing the brand attributes, I wondered if it could help in writing copy. I am personally not a copywriter, but I'm fairly okay. It's just work, right? And it helps. One of the things that I did was in Chat GPT, I took the brand attributes, and just as a quickie test, because AI, I have learned, is all about the prompts. The startup that we helped with is basically creating like a way to build prompt engines. Basically, they call them machines. In this case, very simple, write taglines with the words expansive and human for an AI startup. And it boom immediately, just with those two things, expansive and human, which were two of the attributes, it came out with things like experience the power of expansive AI built with humanity in mind. I'm like, what? That's very nice. I then expanded it to other words like smart, magic, and everyday. Make everyday smarter with the magic of AI. That one was really good because it was really in tune with the work. And actually, after other people share stories, I'll also share the stylescapes, because ultimately I use this stuff in the stylescapes to play with it and to show taglines and like copy in line, which obviously made it like everybody's like, ooh, that's starting to look like real. So that was really the impact that it had, is that you were both working on an AI product, but then also using AI to write taglines and saying that during the presentation with your stylescape. So everyone in the team is going to be like, whoa, cool. It's like very meta. We're using AI to do the work. And a lot of AI was used by the team itself to do even more, to write all the paragraphs, to do all the work. And it was fascinating to watch that an AI team building AI tools was using AI to build the AI tools. And one thing that came up in the conversation was, the fact that computer programmers are also beginning to use AI to write code, and there's all these things that are happening. So with that in mind, now we're going to open it up to your stories. If you've used core in AI, that would be great. If you have examples, that would be even better. I'll make it possible for you to share your screens. But raise your hands. Who wants to go first? Alejandro, I saw your hand first from Costa Rica. So I will let you go, and then Jeremiah. And I will stop sharing my screen. Go for it, Alejandro.
Hey, thank you. So I want to share how I am working with this bank that I told you about, and one of the things that we created, was great ideas, great ideation process. Let me see if I can open this file and I can share it maybe. There was a part where we have started to kind of ideate. Can I share my screen?
I think you should be able to. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop sharing mine.
Okay.
Try it now.
Disable. Okay.
You're a panelist, so you should have that power.
Is this a host disabled participant is screen sharing?
Let me turn that on real quick. See, it doesn't have the security settings, which usually are part of it. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let me go to your Alejandro Calderon. More allowed to share, put on hold, allowed in multi-panel record. I'm gonna make you a co-host and see if that helps. Try it now.
Yeah. All right. So this is the Figma file. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So I think one of the things that we were doing was working on the brand attributes, and when we arrived to different words to describe things and so on and so forth, I mean, they were doing it okay, but I think the game changer, for instance, was when we and this was when ChatGPT appeared and everything. And so what I did is I asked it to give me a list of words, like a positive feelings, and I just copy and pasted here. And I asked them just to vote and see, what are the words that would resonate with them the most. And this was such a game changer because sometimes the challenge that I found is that they were struggling to come up with different words. And so I think that just having the ability to, for instance, ask ChatGPT for just a list of words that evoke, let's say, a positive feeling regarding this and that, I copy and pasting that, let's say, into a tool like this, is such a game changer, because then all of a sudden you erase the work of coming up with these words, but just evaluating where the words that would resonate, everybody else. And so at the end of the day, they just vote for the words that they, resonate the most with, and boom, that's it. They just move forward with that. And I keep doing that exercise. For instance, with this is attributes of how the brand should look. And so I just ask it for, let's say, attributes that would have like a more visual kind of effect. And so this was very useful, because then the words, the descriptions were, more like, let's say, visual. And so to me, that was such a game changer when it comes to strategy, and that was what I wanted to share.
So to recap, you use ChatGPT to produce attributes.
Exactly. So I think that what I realized is that they were struggling to come up with words, because the exercise was, okay, guys, let's come up with a list of words that you would use to describe, let's say, your brand visually. And so I would give them examples for them to, understand what is it that I was talking about. But they were struggling to come up with those words because, of course, they are not experts on visual identity or things like that. But then what I did was just go to ChatGPT and ask it, okay, give me a list, I don't know, like 50 adjectives that would describe visually how brands look like, for instance. And so I just copy and pasted that into the Figma file, and I just asked them, hey, vote for the words that resonate with you the most. And then they voted for the top 3 and top 4, whatever.
Got it. That's awesome. That's such a smart thing to do for clients who. That's one of the number one issues, that if you can't prompt them and if you can't come up with words, for example, when people are going, I usually like step in, right, and add words, but you're doing it with ChatGPT. Love it. Jeremiah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks for sharing, Alejandro. So for me, I have used Chat GPT and AI to basically translate the data from the information that we pull from the client into primarily copywriting, like you, Jose. That isn't one of my strengths. So to have the ability for it to generate this rather than having just like placeholder text has been really beneficial. And it's interesting because I like Alejandro, there has been clients who sometimes struggle with, coming up with adjectives or really thinking of things. So I see that being very beneficial in that area as well, if people need further assistance. But for me, primarily, it's been generating copy, helping with taglines, things like that. And essentially what I do is, I start by guiding my prompts with letting the computer know what I'm seeking to build. So I say I'm building like a brand book for a client. They are in this sector, et cetera. And then I slowly start adding more information to it. So these are the primary attributes that we came up for the brand, voice, et cetera. I share the brand statement. And then slowly, as all of this information is building on top of one another, it's able to create outputs for the brand books that I deliver, essentially. So I did that. And then I've also used it to help create customer profiles that are a little bit more accurate to the information that we've kind of came up with one another. So you're muted, Jose.
Jeremiah, can you talk more about how you use them in creating customer profiles?
So I haven't used it as far as like creating customer profiles, but as far as like generating the avatars, like the actual images for the people. So in the past, like I would just look for stock images, but I found that being able to create a prompt using AI, given the specific information from the demographics, from their story, from their needs, basically I can create a prompt that I can input into DALL-E or Midjourney or however you want to do that. And then it will output a very, very aligned image that is more accurate than, maybe what I would have came up with just like searching for stock images.
That's really brilliant, and it saves a lot of time. So one of the challenges that I had on this particular project was that it was actually finding the right person, and we went through like multiple like revisions, and we were always getting it a bit wrong. Part of it was that the inputs weren't right, meaning part of it was that the age, there was an alignment around age, and putting in attributes like age, gender, what kind of work they do, where do they live, and even other kind of attributes, outgoing, funny, or whatever. You can go crazy, and it will end up giving you a way better and faster than like sitting there looking through tons of images on stock, which are going to look like stock. So I like that. That's a really smart idea.
I'd like to just share some images as well, just so you can see like the before and afters.
Go for it. Co-host, so you can do that.
Cool. All right, perfect. Awesome. So this was one of the clients. So just to give background on the company or on the client that I was working with, she's a holistic practitioner. So she primarily works with people who are seeking like nutrition guidance and coaching around health and wellness. The three client profiles that we came up with were Suhana Mohan, Debbie Sanders, and then Gabby Tovares. So these were the images that I just found online. They weren't to, I don't know, they just didn't really resonate. It was the best that I could find. But after plugging in all of this information into chat and then commanding it, or creating a command to create a prompt that I could plug into Dolly, it allowed me to create this customer profile, which I believe to be a lot more accurate. This one as well, and then this too. And then if you look between, just the information that I collected versus what it output, I was able to, create like an overview, just kind of be able to create in a more like clean, professional, digestible way. So I think that it's really helped me up level the way that I deliver these like roadmaps for clients.
I love that. Go to the, I love this one, but go to the mom.
This one?
Yeah, so it's the quirky mom. So
Mm-hmm.
what's funny that in all of them, it did a really good job at the context. It put artwork behind her. It the fashion. She's probably a Virgo. She's like it's so interesting. And go to the third one.
Yep.
So this is the creator, imaginative, inventive. So like even the look on her face and the lighting, like relevant to the image, and the fact that she's in nature, because she's an herbalist. And then the first one even, she's in Oakland, etc. So it has kind of like an urban background, and the sweater, the earrings, all of it is like, interestingly, like does such a good job.
Right.
Wow. And they look real. They look really like, they don't look like stock.
Right.
Can I jump in one sec?
Absolutely.
I got accepted to the Adobe Firefly beta this week. And one of the really cool things is it has like an eraser tool. It's in I don't think it's live yet, but in their little intro movie, it showed like an eraser tool. So they went in and like erased his jacket, and then in the prompt they said, put on a red jacket. Right. And you could like go through 3 or 4 different jackets, right, and backgrounds, and do stuff like that. So that's gonna be, I think, on top of what you just showed. It'll be cool.
Very cool.
It's really awesome.
Two real quick comments. One is there's a AI called Stability that kind of their hook was, this person does not exist. They have a domain. This person does not exist, because their hook was this exact thing. Although it's a much broader AI than that. But it was all about helping create images that are I guess free to use. I don't know exactly what their terms and conditions are, but are free to use, and people that aren't around. The other quick thing is I did a avatar of my mom, who's older, obviously, and she asked this. It was Lisa AI, I guess, and asked it to create kind of a oil paint version of her and a futuristic version of her, and 5 different styles. And a bunch of them ended up looking quite a bit like Hillary Clinton, even though she does not really look like Hillary Clinton at all in real life. But she's an older white lady, and I'm sure that these tools are sucking up lots of freely available images across the internet, and probably one of the more common ones of older white ladies is Hillary Clinton. So it's interesting how they can be, what can impact them, and how you need to ultimately manage around that stuff.
Awesome. Hillary Clinton, the proxy for all older white ladies. Who wants to go next and share any AI stories? Marlene, have you used AI? Brian, John, or what would you do if you used AI? That's also another thing. Like, what would you want to use it for?
I haven't used AI. I've just been watching a whole bunch of different tutorials, and there's this guy who's I think he's English, and his name is Julian Cole, and he says he's a creative brand strategist. I don't particularly care for his style, but he's had webinars on how he's used Chat GPT to help him create brand strategy. And it's the prompts that he uses, obviously. So I've been watching things like that just to get familiar with the tool whenever I need it. I haven't used it yet, but so I'm still just absorbing, learning, and it's fascinating. I just love it.
What's the one thing that excites you the most about AI in the future?
I think that what I really like about it is it finds solutions that I would never think of. It creates connections that I wouldn't make. So, and even with the same prompt, in my mind, I use that prompt to try to come up with whatever sentences, words, statements. AI is just because it's pulling from so many different resources, it comes up with connections that I would not make. So that's what I find really fascinating. And some of them really work, and some of them are like, no. But I expect that. But it's those connections that it makes that I find to be so fascinating. And I think, is this right? Right now, AI is only mining information that's from like 2 years back. I don't think it's much earlier.
That's the first versions of ChatGPT. We're only looking at 2 years. I think with the new versions, it's probably expanding that to a larger data set.
And for just 2 years, just mining 2 years of information is like amazing. So
Wow.
yeah, it's those connections. It's those connections that it's making that I find fascinating. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Marlene. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So first, I wanted to state on the record that I, for one, welcome our new AI overlords.
You're covering your bases.
For posterity and self-preservation. No, I think that I've been using it for copy for quite a bit since I think it's just for a few months now. It works great for writing copy. I like the fact that it could also be personified. In other words, you could personify AI in the sense that you could tell it to behave as if a certain thing, and it'll give you a response as if, respond as if you're a 30-year-old police officer in New York, and it will respond in that way, which I think is really useful because it also helps with the writing of things like user personas and stories from particular perspectives, and even giving a personality to a brand. And so I've tried to use it in that way as well as using things like Midjourney for generating images. It's probably another conversation that we can get into, what people think about the use of it, getting, let's call it inspiration from other images and things like that are already available, as well as things like, is it really AI? It's one of the things that I'm constantly thinking about is it a real type of intelligence as we would consider it, or is it more just a generative, kind of machine learning technology, but we just call it AI because it's in kind of easy shorthand and it's kind of headline worthy. So those are other conversations that we could maybe explore on a different time, but I think it's been extremely useful. I think we're just barely scratching the surface of how it will improve our workflows, and how it will create large efficiencies, because it's helped me quite a bit with, for example, writing. I mean, the writing has been, I would say, cut by 2/3 in the time that I use in writing. And I think it's going to allow for other opportunities that we haven't even conceived of yet, which is exciting.
Those are two really good questions. One, is it just stitching together stuff that's already existing and making choices in order to do so? Or is it really, intelligence? That's a definition issue of intelligence. But the argument, I think, or one of the thesis in the startup that I helped recently was the amount of everyday knowledge workers in the enterprise will be able to expand their capacity. I might not be I might be a 52-year-old woman working in an enterprise company, let's say in the HR department, and I can take work that I had done in the past, like transcribing a meeting and giving a summary and notes to the team, and just feed it through a machine that would then transcribe and summarize for you. And you could even add other prompts, like translate it into the language of the parent company or of the mother office that might be in another country in another language. And then in addition to that, adding layers of things like analyzing the meeting for meeting best practices from the company, right? So they had meeting best practices guides for their company. You could actually also insert that into the mix, and then have the AI summarized, take the summary and give notes on, almost coach the team on whether or not it was compliant, or how hey, you guys didn't do next steps, you didn't do this, people talk too long, whatever it might be, that it was and I got to see those machines being done and test them and play with them. And then other crazy kind of thoughts and uses aside from those things that are very mechanical, but the ability for it to do things like, hey, we just wrote goals, SMART goals or OKRs, let's say. Can you actually look at them and improve them, help improve them? So there's this vastness of what it can do depending on the inputs that you put into it. That's really surprising.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add that if I don't know if you guys have had the chance to mess with Google Bard yet. It seems I got a chance to mess with it. It seems like a duller version of ChatGPT so far. Obviously, it still needs to be trained, but the promise of it seems to be more expansive, because one of the things that actually got me really excited was that the possibility of, and this is one of the things that's shown on a little preview video, where you could, for example, have a string of emails, 20 emails, and you could say summarize, right? And it summarizes it down to main top 10 points. And then you can essentially say, make a presentation in Google Slides from that. And it will make slides into a presentation with those key points. And so now that's the type of thing that would be also a game changer, because now you can essentially say, make a layout for me, that's for an application. And, with these parameters based on whatever the UX is needed, or, create this kind of magazine layout using these images, and, essentially creating designs now for you just based on these prompts. So it's very exciting.
ChatGPT announced, I think 2 weeks ago, that they've now got a plugin architecture, and companies are creating plugins can be part of their plugin community and marketplace. And if you want to enable actions out of ChatGPT into whatever your product or service is, and it can be absolutely anything, but it, you know, could be, you know, that's like a series of of actions, like, you know, make a reservation, you know, at this restaurant for me, or a good restaurant in this neighborhood for me and my brother, and then send him an email that tells him that's where we're doing next, you know, Thursday night, with directions to the via Google Maps to the restaurant itself, that kind of thing. But it's super expansive. Zapier is one of the ones that I guess that have signed up as well already for this, and they've got thousands of integrations. So it's going to be crazy how powerful, you know, it can be.
Yeah, the future will have assistants like that. Anybody else who's on stage? John, Zach, what are your thoughts? And then Daniel, we'll let you close out. Or you can jump in now. This is a conversation today.
I mean, I love everything that we've covered so far. I'm still struggling with copyright, and I kind of want to know where you guys are at with all that.
Well, if I can jump in, as far as I understand, copyright is only allowable by things created by humans. So then the question really is, how much input and you know, creativity was provided by the human versus the like, for example, like something like Midjourney.
Right.
And that's really the line. There's some information that came out recently. I try to always be on top of that type of intellectual property, copyright stuff, but that seems to be the latest. Is just as long as there's more input that's being provided by the human than by the AI. So that's grants.
Right. So I'm on the same page. But as you know, there's this case where they gave copyright to some images in a book and then pulled the copyright from it and said basically what you're saying. And then my question, you know, out of the potential copyright holders, there's the people who made or own the ChatGPT, there's ChatGPT itself, or there is the person who put in the prompt. And out of those three options, especially from a business point of view, if ChatGPT wants us to continue to, you know, I signed up for the $20 a month so I could get the 4.0 version. They want people to continue to subscribe to their AI models. I think that, you know, us being able to use it commercially is, you know, obvious and clear that we're going to need to.
Does ChatGPT, like, even if you're paying the $20, do they claim the copyright of the image or of the content you create? Is that the issue?
No, but the Copyright Office itself won't issue a copyright.
Oh, if it was generated by AI.
Yes, it has to be, in order for them to generate, grant a copyright, it has to be, you have to be able to prove that it's mostly or primarily human generated.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I read an article on Forbes about this, and it basically says that you should just credit the whatever AI tool that you're using and just move on. So, you know.
Yeah. I mean, this goes to a conversation and an argument that's been happening in the world of commercial art for many years. Meaning, you know, in fashion, you know, somebody comes out with something and within weeks, you know, of the runway show, Sarah has a version of it that has variations. There have been artists who have sued people like, you know, Urban Outfitters for, like, you know, designs on pins or stuff like that. Amazon obviously has gotten into issues of, like, you know, taking products that are very popular, making a version of the product that is similar but not, and selling it and taking the originator kind of out.
Fashion's a thorny area, but I mean, you can copyright in other domains. And I think the interesting thing for designers is I didn't know that was the policy that had arisen. So that's super interesting. But the interesting thing is that underscores the value of human design. Like if you want to create something for your brand that is copyrightable, trademarkable, you know, you're gonna have to use a human designer to get at it.
I think, if you don't mind me jumping in, I think that's a fantastic point that creatives need to be using as essentially a selling point, is to say, for obviously it depends on the size of the business and the needs that they have. But if, you know, they're concerned with, you know, potential liabilities when it comes to, you know, IP and copyright, that does become a big selling point down the road, that, you know, this is original content that's owned, as opposed to something that, you know, 2 years down the road, you're going to be hit with a lawsuit or a kind of cease and desist, and you have to redo all your marketing materials and things like that. So good point, Todd.
So I'm going to prompt us as an AI as a question. If you were to predict the future of AI as it pertains to your practice, or actually, you know, what would you do? What would you create? What would you wish you could do and automate in your practice with AI? And I'll start by modeling it. You know, I can imagine, you know, building a version of, you know, tools like Core, of the different exercises and other tools that includes and embeds already, like the ability to do some of the things that, for example, Jeremiah and Alejandro showed, whether it be like give me options for prompts, or whether it be translate. You know, one way I used it, which I didn't show, was like, you know, what does this attribute mean? And then it gave me definitions for all the attributes, and I dropped them into the presentation, which is like, what? This is great. Because then when you're presenting, you know, why you did something, you now have those definitions. Obviously, you can look at the dictionary. It was just faster to type in the attribute and ask the ChatGPT to do it. So building some sort of tool that would actually go help you input the prompts, like users and users' priorities and brand attributes, and then output on a templatized system, you know, options, design options for the priorities. So one of the priorities was the logo, one of the priorities was XYZ. It could actually output those things, including comps if there's a website included.
Actually, well, this question, maybe Daniel
is a comment, or is this your version of this?
No, it's actually relates to this topic a lot, and I'm curious if Daniel has insight on it. But don't let me interrupt. We can come back to it at the end.
Well, if we want to continue talking IP, we can. So where we were with IP is that if you give it attribution to an AI, you can use it. Then there was the value of creative. My personal opinion, and just not to interject it, but just to share it, is that, you know, even at the beginning of the work for the school and for the future, et cetera, or at the beginning of the premise for the school was that because of globalization and an expansive kind of workforce, the value of our creative was going to continue. It was already happening. You were seeing it. You know, things were getting outsourced, you know, especially in LA when it came to motion graphics and, you know, even web development to other countries, right? India, motion graphics, Argentina, Brazil, et cetera. And people were freaking out a little bit. And one of the solutions is, you know, obviously to elevate yourself to being, you know, the big picture holder and the ability to translate needs more accurately and to provide some value that sometimes only big agencies can do, and not just be on the production end and being the butt of the process. So that kind of was my intention with introducing all the tools that I introduced, you know, from, you know, Core to Stylescapes to, you know, sales templates, et cetera. And now we're at another juncture in design. And one of the controversies that I saw recently relative to IP or relative to creativity was AI copying another source, like in the case of the Afghani girl where the AI produced an image that looked a lot like the cover of National Geographic or Time magazine, I think, that was so similar that people were like, well, is a photographer going to claim, the photographer did say, hey, that looks a lot like my original image. And then it comes to something that has been happening in photo a lot, or that happens in advertising all the time, where you see an ad campaign and it looks like, oh wait, that's in the style of this fine artist, or another photographer shoots in a similar style of another photographer, but cheaper. So advertising agencies are, hey, we want that style, but we don't want to pay the person, so let's hire a cheaper person to do or to replicate that style. So that to me is an interesting kind of challenge when you're fixed in what you do, right? When you're an illustrator or you're a photographer or a filmmaker, and things get emulated. And then it goes to the issue of ownership, meaning of who controls kind of like the monetization of it. And the last thing I'll say, with the last example is with how pervasive social media is and people reusing people's work without attribution or without payment on a post, right? Memes do that all the time. People are like, what? And there was a case study of in crypto specifically, of a young woman who had a very prominent photo of Hawaii. When you Googled, Hawaii or photos of Hawaii, they got used a lot by tourism, ads or by different things without giving online, social, without giving attribution or paying her. So what she ended up doing was selling that image, the rights to that image fractionally as an NFT, and she made $150,000. I was at the height of the NFT craze, to be fair, but really ultimately, who is in control of the monetization and how? Meaning, as a service, you give all the IP of your design work to a large company, meaning even though our contracts, when I was running my agency, gave a license in perpetuity for the service fee for any of the artwork, reserving the rights for us to reuse the code and any of the work. But Disney wouldn't let us do that because they're like, you know what? No, you can't reuse any of our stuff because they have really important IP. A small startup who was just getting off the ground didn't really care because the stuff was going to change. So what is the value of both the imagery and the layouts and the design and the typography?
Yeah,
other than function.
In my experience, it's very, when you're an agency, it's very tough, very, very, very tough, no matter who your client is, for the work not to be for hire, unless you're established as a certain kind of artist, a certain kind of look, and they're hiring you specific for that kind of work. But anyway, separate from the IP conversation, Daniel, we touched on this, I think, last time a little bit. I just wanted to circle back on it. I think we touched on it. And maybe because of your Adobe experience on their tool, there's some insight around it because they own a lot of these proprietary formats. Where are things in terms of creating proprietary file formats? If I want something generated in the form of an Illustrator file or a PSD or something like that, so that I can actually manipulate it, is that, I'm sure that's got to be in lots of discussion, but I just haven't seen anywhere where it's even being practically explored in like even a prototype. I thought maybe you.
I don't quite understand the question yet.
He's saying, do they give you editable files when you mess with it in AI?
So far, not. But I think, it's basically contained inside a website right now, and you can export a JPEG that's branded with the Firefly logo on it. I have this test I did. I'll put it in the chat here really quick. It will load. And but I think eventually they have to, right? Like they have to be able to be editable and be, be able to move through all your different Adobe products. So I think, a lot of the conversation today is sort of like where we're at, but this is such a fast moving subject that I think, keeping your eyes downfield a little bit is going to be, a good idea on it. If it be copyright, or if it be, how we're going to implement the tools, or any of these things. Like, it's not, what's the famous, don't skate to where the puck is, but where it's going to be.
Right.
Well, luckily, the government's still trying to catch up with software, IP and stuff. So they have a lot of catching up to do with all this new AI stuff.
Yeah,
generative things.
And
So.
that sort of goes to how I'm playing with it. Like, I asked it, what are the greatest threats to humanity? And that's sort of like where we kicked off, and we, what I mean? I'm already like referencing it as a person. So I did chat for like 3.5 hours following like this kind of path. Like, what are the, how are we going to work on those projects, and what does a government look like in a post AI world? And, sort of like just trying to see how it would feel, these larger topics. And I'm at the point where I'm thinking I'm just taking my, these intellectual adventures and just putting them in sort of like a keynote or a book form or something like that. And just, having that be a product.
It's a great idea. Like my conversations with AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Love
I
it.
just wanted to add before we get too far away from the question. Yes, you cannot edit pictures right now. Like, let's say export the editable version of that. But I think that Adobe is playing a key role in all this, because even though it's a little bit late, let's say, compared to Midjourney, I think they're doing all the right things. For instance, they are focusing on the designers, and they are resolving the issue of copywriting. And so, for instance, the images that are generated, they say that they protect the copyright, and you have the license to use that, and so on and so forth. And now another thing is that I think Adobe is going to be a key player, is that if you see their previews of Firefly, you can see how there's a picture of layers in a picture, and I think that is just game changer, because the minute you can edit a picture by layers, I mean, that's going to take things to a whole new level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm exactly in the same place, because to me, that's what the application is for copy right now, right? It can generate drafts for me, and those drafts are really, really useful, but they're not, they need some polish. Sometimes they're too wordy, sometimes things are a little pedantic, whatever it is, but you can edit them. And, getting an editable file format is going to be incredibly powerful in terms of adding productivity for designers. And especially if you can start with the file format, like here's an earlier version of this, give me 16 explorations of this in these different color palettes, as an example, right? That would take you an hour, or junior designer an hour, to knock that stuff out, so you can actually get a look at it, and it's going to knock it out in 3 minutes, if that long.
Really, yeah.
I think it's super interesting to see how the layers would be, not necessarily from a craft perspective, but we could imagine, based on previous generative, things like generative engineering and things like that, that it wouldn't necessarily generate the layers in the same way that you or I would. And it would be a learning experience as to see, oh, why did it generate this solution? Right. Which is completely different from any solution that kind of makes sense. But that's because they're, maybe looking 1,000 steps ahead, right, and kind of working backwards, or, they can go through so much processing power there, that right, they can generate these solutions that we would not have thought about. Maybe in 10 years we would have thought about it if we would have just been thinking about that one problem. I think it would be interesting just from that perspective.
It'll be super. I mean, it'll generate them initially on what I assume are going to be best practices that Adobe or whomever says, hey, look at these 5 million files. and see how the layers were generated and develop a best practice based on how these were done. And you can overdo it too. I mean, there's going to be almost a tuning quality to it, or underdo it, obviously. But it's super interesting to me. Jose, I hijacked your question about that you were posing about how AI is going to be used in folks' practices. So I don't want to lose track of that.
It's just a question to get us towards the end and then doing the upload. For me, the reason for the question is, we can talk about the specifics, which people do want to know. But, all those things as they resolve, I love the conversation about production and, how does it impact like the ability to do 10 variations of an image. And Adobe, I'm sure it's going to not only with Firefly, but into their other tools, continue to incorporate AI. But yeah, envisioning the future, like Jeremiah, how would you expand your practice using it? Or Marlene, you haven't used it yet. What would you want to do? Or Zach, how would you want to like have AI? It's a tool that is a big tool, and we can think about it, from that. My version was I would make a software version of Core and like generate the stylescapes with AI to save the time. I know that sounds crazy, but then the issue of like, can you edit those stylescapes is the question that we're just asking now. Like, can you get layers? But where's it going? Like predictions. Imagine this is a pundit show, and Todd, you can go first. Where's AI going? Where do you want to see it?
My hopes for it are that it is just it's like a very benevolent productivity hack, basically, for everything that we do. So that, Marlene, in her practice, can be as productive as what used to be a 12-person shop, right? Because of how quickly things can get knocked out. I think that the impact of that for small and medium-sized businesses who are already able to punch above their weight because of digital and tech and reach, and you can sell across the world, and from your little shop if you have something really great and differentiating, and that it can up that game across the board and give a lot of people agency that at a higher level than they've been able to have before. That's my hope for it. I also am concerned,
only the hope. Only the hope. I mean, I get it that we can talk about the concerns, but the question is only the hope. Choose somebody to go next.
All right. Marlene.
There's a reason for that, because we create the future we want, but I understand that we don't have control over a lot of it, but we can leave that to the TikTok pundits that AI is going to be Skype.
Oh, we can with our hopes help in create the future. Marlene, I think you're.
My hope is that AI has guardrails. That's what my hope is. And the kind of guardrails I'm looking at is that AI can help you get started. It can inspire the thinking, but the guardrails are that it doesn't really give you perfect final art. Yeah.
You wanted to give you a little bit of something to do still. Got it.
I mean, Steve Jobs, when he gave us all those really fabulous tools back in the day with I can't even remember what some of them were, but once some of these people that I know of businesses bought Macs, and they had all this crazy software, the applications that they could create stuff with, brochures and stuff with, they were like, oh yeah, we don't need a designer anymore because we can do these ugly things.
Right. You still want to roll for design. You don't want it to become that.
So I want AI to have guardrails so that you can be inspired and have a sense of what can be created, but you can't walk away with it and say, this is final art, it's produced, it's fabulous, this is what no. I wanted
So
to
just so-
continue, I wanted to continue to be just slightly imperfect.
Just so you
That's
know,
my goal.
Marlene, you just answered the question of how to get around the AI copyright thing, because that's if you use it as inspiration but make your own, then it's human made, and then you can claim copyright.
Beautiful.
And yeah, so that's the guardrail I want.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Pick someone. You go next.
Zach.
I typed in the chat that having an assistant like Jarvis would be just super cool. I see AI as a gap filler. That's how I've kind of used it already. And I think it can continue to be that. I'm also interested in how AI can impact design in really humanity at a more systematic scale than an artifact scale. And I don't want, I know you said don't bring in concern, so I'm not going to try to bring in concern. I'll just ask this. I'm curious on how AI will be integrated into our current economic and government institutions worldwide and how they're being used to do what they do. So those are my thoughts.
How do we solve the bigger problems? Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
exactly.
I love how you're contextualizing it.
Yes. I will popcorn Daniel.
On the same page. I mean, these are issues that, I'm often concerned about. The larger context where, where are we going? Are we solving the problems? It's a byproduct of me working on a climate change movie. So I'm always thinking about how these tools are going to impact it. And so far it's been, my opening question to it was, does it tell the truth? Right. And it said, well, I'm not a human, but I do my best to tell the truth, and telling the truth is very important. And from there, that's a much better position than the position that I find in, everyday life, that, unless you're in front of a government, a federal agent or a police officer, or, in a court of law, that's not really important, and how that's impacted us and to where we are now and the problems that we face. So I'm excited about its ethical position so far, and that it seems to be a positive force going forward. But at the same time, that those are some of the other, I asked it, what is a post AI government look like, right? And it did an okay job, but I think the impacts are going to be vast. And and we're just literally in the very first months of them, and I think it's going to have an effect on literally every aspect of our lives and the world around us, that sort of similar to the way the internet has affected us. This is like a 10x on that. And I had a chance to go to a event at the Art Center with Chris Stowe, and his position was basically, you can either get in front, ride the wave, or you can get crushed by the wave. So I think that it just, it behooves us all to get ahead of it, and to try to find positive ways to use it, and try to get to try to solve some real problems.
Some real problem. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That we've been facing. Yeah.
I love it. I love that mindset. How do we change the world with AI? Pick somebody else. This is going to be our upload, by the way, just for everybody.
Todd, are you ready?
I think Todd went first.
Oh, Todd went first. Sorry. Who do we got left then?
I think
Brian?
John, Rafael, anybody in the chat. what do you see? What do you see AI helping you with, or or we can switch it here. What did you get out of today's conversation? And we'll use that as our upload.
I'll go ahead and go. So I think we just started the conversation about researching Chat GPT. I'm actually using Bard, and was making some doing some experiments actually during this call. But from a search engine optimization perspective and a content perspective, there are benefits. We just have to be sure that what it's spitting out is accurate. Trust but verify. And then from a copywriting standpoint, I agree with Marlene. I mean, we have copywriters who feel somewhat threatened by it, but I assure them that this can't replace the human element, and it won't. But it can serve as a great starting point to give them and inspire them if they're kind of hitting a brick wall, which they may do if they're continuously creating content for one client, and they may get burned out. They may need inspiration, and I think that's where AI can help, is inspiring creativity, but not necessarily being the artist holding the brush at the end. So that's our takeaway. We're still researching. I think there's still more to go. We tried Jasper a couple years back. We got dinged on some search engine optimization results because it could tell that it was AI. Even though we went into it and we tried to fix it up with some human content mixed in, but Google caught it. So that's another thing. I mean, from a search engine optimization standpoint, if that's a service you offer or part of the agency, that's something we have to be careful with, is making sure that it's a beautiful blend, and not just necessarily the AI spitting out content. But that's what I got out of this is that I think the creative space is now looking into this a little bit more with the influx of all these AI tools coming out all of a sudden. So it's a lot to process, but I think we're scratching the surface, in my opinion.
Beautiful. Who wants to go next for uploading? Whoever wants to go, let's do 2 more uploads.
I can go. I think that we don't even haven't seen the potential of AI yet, but I think we just need to keep learning and adapting to it. I think this is what we do as humans. We learn and adapt, and I think that we just need to make sure that we're thinking on our species first and not just on our own interest, because that can be detrimental to the whole species. But I think that it's just a tool that we need to keep exploring and learning about, and so just embracing the changes, because nothing is just going to stop it.
Beautiful.
I'll jump in last. For me, I think on like a big picture, not just like how I use it in my practice, I'd really like for the issue of like poverty to be solved, and that's something that Sam Altman has been doing a lot of research with AI, and I think that this has the capability of solving like really big challenges that we face as humanity. And I really have hopes that this can really put us in like a new age and a new dawn, where it's solving a lot of the challenges that we've been, but still allow us to pursue purpose. I think it gives us that opportunity to pursue purpose, whether that be in design and marketing and just having a bigger impact on the people that we connect with on a daily basis. So that's my upload for today.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better myself. Conversation that I had with someone about this topic, about how AI could help enhance the ability for people offshore who might not speak English to actually have better relationships with their American clients because of translation and tools, et cetera, that can be built into the work. but also the issue of purpose, meaning that I've been taught first at this, that because of automation in the future, work that was repetitive and rote would go away, and that then people would be left with the big question of purpose and meaning in their lives. And it's already happening. That's already happening immensely, especially with the leaving of manufacturing and jobs of that sort to China and other countries, that the American middle class has been left with this gasping, like, what do we do? And us as designers, my intention always is to move us away from, just being, again, as always, from going from being risk to being big picture thinkers and being creatives after all. And our job is to solve problems, not necessarily to do, just the work. So anytime that I get into conversations about just doing the work, I have to be more patient, because I understand that, even I struggle with just doing the work. I'm more interested, like you, Jeremiah, or like, Daniel, in a lot of ways, with how do we solve through design thinking and through these bigger picture kind of things? How do we really redesign like culture and society at all the different levels, So that's my takeaway. This is an amazing conversation, a great opportunity for us to reflect, to come together as a community. Jeremiah, like you said, coming here every week, it really fills me, and I am grateful for everyone. So this is it. Next week, in 2 weeks, we're going to take a break and come back at the end of April for core office hours, and we'll see you then. So now we can just say hello and chat, open chat for the next 2 minutes. I have to go in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Good to see you, Rafael.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Oh, Todd figured out how to do the Alejandro Calderon style avatars.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But it won't let me wave.
No, you have no hands. But go ahead. But wait. Well, anyway, I don't want to know, because then I'll get distracted and I'll try to do it. Bye, cousin Marlene.
It's in with all the other stuff there. You can do create your own avatar. Not as robust as some of the other avatar creation tools, but not bad.
Under a virtual
Oh,
background.
I see it. Yes, it's under just the settings. Choose avatar. So
Yeah, you can
Before
choose
you go to
avatar, and then
background.
if you hit the plus, there's a beta for creating your own avatar.
Got it.
Real quick, guys, I dropped a couple links. I know the Lex Friedman podcaster came up with Iwana. I've also listened to those podcasts. He did an interview with the CEO, like Iwana brought up, but also there's a gentleman named Lizer, and he kind of talks about just the dangers of AI. And I think that it's important for us to be aware of them so we can choose to create a better future. And then lastly, there's another link that I dropped in. It's from a fellow system member. His name's TJ. He actually did a full core discovery process with it, and he shared it in the Future Circle page.
It's great to interact on.
And yeah, I think you guys should check it out.
When it comes to doing podcasts, you have to be using Riverside. What are you doing if you're not using Riverside? Literally, how we see someone affects how we perceive that person. But if you show up,
I think it's playing the video.
Somebody's playing.
Also, if you haven't seen the YouTube channel Computer File, that's one that has people who are working in AI, machine learning, mathematicians, and things like that who discuss both the specifics from like the computer science side, but also they go into like the ethics of how that works and what considerations there are, and sometimes they go into the nitty-gritty of the programming, and sometimes they just stick more on the surface level where it's like what should we be considering for guardrails for potential uses and things like that. It's really interesting.
Awesome. Cool. I'll have to check that out. Jose, are we going to be able to see the work that you did earlier this year with the company?
I'll show it to you when we do our call next week.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right on.
you'll be able to see it. The weekend to break. Yes, the answer is yes.
Awesome.
It'll be great. Awesome people. Love you guys. Have a great Friday, great weekend.
Peace.